Why do we exist? Is life truly meaningless? Do we exist for no reason? Is there any sort of higher purpose for us? Are we just existing for no reason? Is everything we do meaningless? Gee, I don't know about that. I think life can have meaning on its own. We can give life its own meaning and etc. and stuff. But wouldn't that just be fictional and just subjective and made up by us? Does life actually have any sort of real value? Well, that's a very deep philosophical question and topic that I can't really discuss right now. Surely we could just make up our own values and meanings, but wouldn't that just be all fictional and made up and nonsense? Even if it's all just imaginary, we can still enjoy living in that delusion. So is life really just all meaningless? For real? Do we not have any sort of real purpose for us? Well, science can't show us any type of real purpose or meaning. We can't see any type of real purpose or meaning in the natural world. You don't see our purpose written up in the sky, so I believe that we don't have any real type of purpose. If that's the case, then wouldn't that mean that we are completely worthless and we don't have any real type of purpose for us, and that we exist for no reason, and that there is no purpose to our existence in life? I don't know about that. I think that's a little bit too far-fetched. Oh well, I'll think about it later on. Big Sonic. Thank you, Small Sonic. What is your purpose? Now, this is a very important question. It's a very important question, right? What's your purpose? And what, it's kind of, what is purpose? What am I getting at, right? What's your purpose? It's a very important question, right? Do we even have a purpose at all, right? Do we just get to decide our own purpose, right? Your purpose, which is it's kind of very important, right? Because, also another a very important question is like, what are you living for, right? What are you dedicating your life to? Like, what is your purpose? This is something that you have to kind of really contemplate on and think about and stuff, right? Because your purpose, right? Well, it's kind of, and of course, people, they don't really a lot of people just don't really even care about this question, right? What's your purpose? Because a lot of people, they will just say that just to kind of, I guess, just to be happy and stuff and to enjoy life. That's what most people are. That's what most people kind of, that's how most people kind of live their life, right? They just try and enjoy life and be happy and stuff. That's like what a lot of people would say their purpose would be, etc. I don't know. But it's kind of, and of course, there's no clear answer, right? What's your purpose? It's kind of a very, very, very subjective question, right? And stuff. And because there is no clear answer, right? Because you look outside. If you look outside, you don't get like, and if you look outside and you look at the sky, right? You don't see like your purpose written into the sky, right? It's not something that we can kind of just discover in this world that we're living in, right? It's something. So when I say that, what's your purpose? Is kind of ultimately it's kind of a very meaningless question, but it's such a very important question, right? What is our purpose? Do we even have a purpose, right? And stuff. And of course, this is where a lot of religious people would kind of jump in and they will throw their religions in your face. And of course, I'm not going to do that in this video and stuff, because this is kind of just a lot more. This video is going to be more, I guess more. It's going to be less, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be less about me telling you what your purpose is, I guess. I don't know. And more about like kind of helping you try to contemplate on this question, right? What is your purpose? And again, a lot of religious people would jump in and say, well, your purpose is, there's this God and you have to do what he says and stuff, and that's okay, fair enough, right? But a lot of people watching this video might be like, they might be sort of not really very religious and stuff. They might be more atheistic and stuff. And so if we want to kind of tackle this question from their perspective, right? What's your purpose? And again, as I said before, like if you go outside and you look at the sky, right, you don't see your purpose written up there in the sky, right? It's not something we can just discover in this world we're living in, right? So then, what is your purpose then, right? What's your purpose? And of course, there is no clear answer. And a lot of people would just say, well, there is no real purpose, right? are like, we just exist for no reason, and that's it. We don't have a real purpose. We came into existence for no real reason. Everything around you sort of, basically, it's meaningless, especially if you come at it from this very atheistic perspective. Well, not very, I mean, atheism, like, I don't know, because it does get tangled up with nihilism in a lot of different ways, right? Atheism, because if there's no God, right, there's no designer, right? So what does that mean? That means that, the universe is just an accident, right, basically, and stuff, right? Of course, a lot of people would kind of disagree with me on this point, but I mean, if there is no God, like, the universe is just an accident, like, we're just accidents. There is no real purpose behind our existence. We came into existence for, like, literally no reason. Like, our existence is literally it, by definition, is completely worthless and meaningless if there is no God, right? Because, meaning, purpose, all of this stuff, it does kind of indicate, like, that there is some sort of higher entity that's designing this universe, right? That's giving this type of purpose and meaning to us. But of course, from this cold, scientific, atheistic perspective, right? What's your purpose? And, and again, I told you, like, if you go outside and you look at the sky, you're not going to see your purpose written up there, right? So this question, right, what's your purpose? It becomes completely kind of redundant and meaningless, right? Because the answer is that there is no real purpose for us that's laid out by some type of by something objective and concrete, not just by something that we make up, not just by, like, our own imaginations, like, because a lot of people say, well, you can just make your own purpose up, but yeah, of course you can do that, of course. And again, there's no clear answer to this question, right? So you could do that, and you could say that, oh, my purpose is to I don't know, do this thing, I don't know. I mean, maybe you might enjoy making cakes. That could be your purpose. I don't know. You might enjoy some other type of activity that's like this, that's similar to this, right? Some sort of hobby that you like. That could be your purpose. Of course, I'm talking about, like, in terms of, like, a more spiritual, existential sense, right? What's your purpose, right? I'm not just talking about, like, what your hobbies are, what your interests are. Like, what is your actual real purpose as a human being? What is your purpose and stuff? And this is it's a question that it doesn't really get a lot of it. Isn't really get, I mean, of course, maybe it does get talked about a lot. Maybe I'm just being a kind of a dumb guy. Maybe I'm just not even thinking about this properly, right? What's your purpose, right? Again, there's so many different perspectives, right? If you look at it from a very purely atheistic, scientific perspective, right, there is no clear. There is sort of. I'm saying there is. I mean, obviously there is no clear answer to this question, but from a purely atheistic, scientific perspective, right? Assuming that there is no God, right? That the universe is just an accident, we're just accidents, right? Because there was no designer or creator. So this question, right? What's your purpose? Kind of, the sad answer would be that we don't have a purpose. It's just we exist for no reason and stuff. Our existence is sort of meaningless and worthless. And that's kind of very depressing and sad, of course. I mentioned that, when this specific question gets brought up, a lot of religious people tend to, like, kind of jump in and say that it's very obvious what our purpose is, right? And then they kind of show you their religious texts and scriptures, and they try and kind of push you onto their religion. They kind of try and attempt to manipulate you, like you might be suffering from some sort of existential crisis or something similar, right? You don't really feel like your life has a purpose. So, and usually when this happens, right, a lot of religious people tend to jump in, and they'll try and manipulate you with their religions and stuff. And of course, I'm not going to do that in this video. This video is a lot more, so it's just something to help you kind of think about. It's something that will kind of help you consider and become, I don't know, to consider your existence. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It's just something to help you think more, I guess. I don't know, think about it though. What's your purpose, right? And there's no clear answer to this question. It's a very subjective question, right? There's no clear answer, so I can't really, say something, like present you like an answer straight from my mouth and say, all right, this is your purpose, because it's kind of a very subjective question and stuff. And of course, ultimately, right, but if we are looking at it from this atheistic scientific perspective, right, that we're just accidents, right? If you're looking at it from a very cold materialistic perspective, right, if you go outside and you look at the sky, you don't see your purpose up there written in the sky, right? So this question kind of becomes kind of stupid, because the sad answer is that we don't have a real purpose. It's something that we just have to kind of invent and make up on our own. We have to literally just fabricate our own purposes. It's kind of sort of it's a delusion, right? That would be a delusion. Of course, a lot of people would kind of disagree and say, well, it's as real as you want it to be, right? It's real because you think it's real, if that's what you're into, I don't know. But like in terms of like a real objective concrete purpose, I mean, if we're assuming that this more materialistic, atheistic, scientific perspective is true, right? That there is no God, and that the universe is just an accident, right? Technically, it has to be an accident if there is no God, right? A lot of people would say, well, no, that doesn't mean that the universe is an accident. I mean, come on, if there is no God, there's no there was no intention behind the universe. There was no intentional reason that the universe like started to generate itself. Right? Like this, a universe with meaning kind of does it gets tangled up with the idea of a god being real. Right? That's why atheism kind of intertwines with nihilism in a lot of different ways. Right? But assuming that this is true, right, that the universe is just an accident, like this cold atheistic, materialistic, scientific perspective, assuming that this is this is the truth, right? Then the sad answer is to the question that what's your purpose? That we don't have any real type of purpose. Right? This is all. We exist for no reason, basically. Right? We are meaningless creatures. Our existence is completely worthless and stuff. We essentially just fabricate and make up our own meanings and values and purposes and whatever. But it's, but in the hard reality is that the sad, harsh reality is that these are all just delusions. Right? We just fabricate our own purposes and meanings and values, but these are just all figments of our own imagination. The objective world doesn't really care about these types of delusions we make up, and so this the question, what's your purpose? It's kind of. I mean, if this perspective, if this is true, right? If this hard, materialistic, atheistic, scientific perspective is true, then the sad answer to this question, what's your purpose? The sad answer is that we don't have a real purpose. We are just completely meaningless. So we exist for. We're just accidents. We don't. There is no like higher purpose laid out for us. We exist for no real reason, basically. Right? Assuming again, from this perspective that from this perspective of materialism and atheism, it's modern scientific perspective, right? That that there is no God and the universe is just an accident. So and we're just accidents and stuff. And so to answer the question, what's your purpose? I mean, the sad answer is we don't have a real purpose. It's all meaningless. And I'm kind of going over this again and again and again, but contemplate on the question, right? It's very important. What's your purpose? And again, a lot of religious people kind of jump in and they'll say that your purpose is to follow this God's rules and stuff, and you'll be safe and happy and whatever. Of course, and I know it sounds like I'm kind of degrading religion, but I'm not really an atheist. It's just something that we contemplate and think, right? A lot of religious people kind of jump in and say, well, your purpose is to follow this God and his rule book and stuff, and you'll be happy and safe and whatever. And of course, then when we're talking about religion, like, of course, I do lean. I'm not gonna kind of hide my I guess my background and my upbringing, whatever, and blah blah blah. I do lean towards Islam, obviously, right? Halal dunya, right? I lean towards Islam. In terms of which religion you should even consider, in terms of which religion you should consider and kind of accept and blah blah blah. I do lean towards Islam in that regard and stuff. Of course, because from my own personal study, I believe that the Bible is kind of filled with contradictions and errors and so many different problems, right? To even consider Christianity, it would be literally to kind of like ignore your own intellectual inquiry. I don't know. It would be literally like I guess it would be like trying to say that 2 + 2 = 5. It would be based on completely. It wouldn't be based on any type of intellectual reasoning, right? To consider Christianity and to accept Christianity. That's why I don't consider Christianity and Judaism. It's not even something that's worth talking about, because it's not even really a religion that's meant for everyone. It's just a religion sort of exclusively for the Jews and blah 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 and the Israelites, blah blah blah. I don't even want to waste time on Judaism, of course. What about the other world religions like Hinduism and Sikhism? These other religions are they're very obviously sort of just nonsense, and you can and if you disagree, you can just kind of do your own research. These other world religions are kind of very obviously just nonsense. If you kind of closely analyze their religious scriptures and texts and claims that these religions make, like these other world religions that aren't Abrahamic, they're just very obviously just clearly nonsense. Like really, if you're considering like religion, right, specifically, most people would agree that it will be between the Abrahamic faiths, right? Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, blah blah blah. These, of course, you can narrow it. I just, from my own personal study, I kind of just narrowed it down to Islam, because the Bible has contradictions and problems and errors. Judaism isn't even a religion that's meant for everyone, so Islam. But religion, is it true? That's kind of the most important That's like very important, right? Because, you know, what's your purpose? And a lot of religious people will jump in and say, well, to follow this God's rule book. But does that God actually exist? And stuff. And it's kind of a, you know, this question is kind of impossible to answer. You know, in terms of science, right? We can't measure and determine that a God actually exists. It's like God is sort of, it's like in the realm. It's in the same sort of category as like our. I guess this is going to sound kind of degrading, but it actually sort of truly is in the same realm as, and the category as trolls, unicorns, and stuff like this. Stuff that isn't physically manifested in the world, something that we just kind of conjure up in our own minds. We can only just imagine it to be real and stuff like that. You know, God is not a physical thing that we can measure, especially the Abrahamic God. It's not like you can go anywhere in this world and see where the Abrahamic God is and talk to him, right? So, you know, and this is kind of the issue when I ask this question, like, what's your purpose? A lot of religious people will jump in, blah blah blah, and they'll kind of sell you, they'll try and sell you their religion, blah blah blah, and whatever. Of course, a lot, and then, you know, the issue with this is, you know, are their religions actually true and stuff, and it's kind of so complex and it gets so convoluted, it becomes impossible to answer this question, right? What's your purpose? I'm just going all over the place. Hopefully this is trying to at least help you think about it, right? And I'm not just talking, you know, when I say what's your purpose, what's your actual true real, do we even have a real purpose? It's not just like, oh, my hobbies and interests and blah blah blah. I just like baking cakes, that's my purpose. Like, come on, don't be stupid. Like, your purpose, an actual true real purpose, not something more spiritual and existential, not like your hobbies and interests. That's what most people, that's what, you know, when you go on videos on YouTube especially, or on the internet, the people, they you know, when this question gets brought up, like, you just make your hobby your purpose. It's so dumb. In terms of, like, really your spiritual existential purpose is going to be to bake cakes. Really, are you kidding me? That's so dumb. Your spiritual existential purpose is to bake cakes. Really? Oh. And of course, I'm kind of mumbling, you know, what's your purpose? All right, and a lot of you would say, well, just tell us. I can't tell you because there is no clear answer. I'm just trying to help you think. You know, get it? You know, there's no clear answer to this question. Clear answer, something that I can just kind of pull out of my mouth and just present to you, right? You know, there is no clear answer to this question, right? What's your purpose? But you have to contemplate and think about it. And again, there's so many different perspectives and stuff like that, you know, the cold, materialistic, atheistic, scientific perspective, right? This type of perspective that, you know, that the universe is just an accident. We're just accidents. We're just literally just random. A lot of atheists and scientists and materialists, they wouldn't say that we're just randomly degenerate. Obviously, there was some like sort of process that was going on that helped us come into existence, blah blah blah. That was structured and logical. Oh, it's kind of mumbling on my words. Think about it, though. I'm trying to just really help you think about it, right? Are we, you know, what's your purpose? And a lot of people, you know, I mentioned religious people and stuff. Yeah, but, you know, is religion, like, is there really a God that exists? And that's impossible to answer, especially if we're dealing with the Abrahamic God, because the Abrahamic God is immaterial beyond this physical world. So it's not even worth really talking about, like, whether or not the Abrahamic God exists is completely impossible to answer that type of question. And the other world religions, I mean, you might have some personal interest in them, but I don't, because, you know, it's very obvious that they're just nonsense, and, you know, it's not even worth really thinking about. Really, in terms of religion, the Abrahamic religions, that's what you're going to really focus on. Of course, a lot of people say, well, blah, 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 these other pagan religions, yeah, but they're just nonsense. Come on, don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. You can kind of go through their religious scriptures and texts. This is nonsense. Of course, you might disagree and blah, blah, and you might have your own personal interest in these other world religions, but I'm not going to, I wouldn't even, I'm just trying to, if you want me to help you, I would just kind of, you know, you should really take my advice and just not even consider these other world religions, pagan world religions, so to speak, right? It's probably just nonsense. They're most likely just nonsense. So yeah, you know, what's your purpose, right? There's no clear answer. And there's a lot of different perspectives and stuff, you know, this atheistic, scientific perspective, right? And this materialist perspective that, you know, the universe is an accident. Us human beings, we're just accidents. Everything around us is just an accident, right? Oh, if this is true, you know, what's your purpose is kind of it's a very stupid question, because, you know, the sad answer is that we don't have a real purpose. It's just, we're just meaningless creatures and stuff. We're just accidents. We exist for no real reason. And that's it's very depressing and sad, but, you know, this might actually be the sad reality and stuff, and something that you would have to kind of think about. Then I guess, I don't know, if this is actually true, that we're just accidents and we don't have a real purpose. That's very depressing and sad. And let's just assume that this is true, that we don't really even have a real purpose. We don't have a real purpose and stuff. Then what? Then I guess I mean, you can kind of, a lot of people say you just make up your own purpose and blah blah blah, your own hobbies and interests. But if we don't have any real existential spiritual purpose, I mean, come on, let's say your hobby is that you like baking cakes. Is that your existential spiritual purpose? Of course not. Don't be stupid. When I'm talking, like, what's your purpose? I'm not talking about like your hobbies and interests, right? You like baking cakes, okay? So is that your existential spiritual purpose? Well, that's what a lot of people say. Just make your hobby your life purpose, blah blah blah, whatever. No. Your existential spiritual purpose has to be something far greater than your hobbies and interests and anything else that's kind of mundane, you know what I mean? Really, your spiritual existential purpose is to bake cakes. Come on, don't be dumb. No, but you know, let's just assume that, you know, the sad reality is that we don't have any type of real purpose or value or meaning to our existence. We are just accidents with no higher values and purposes and meanings, blah blah blah. If this is true, then what? Then I guess it's kind of, you can just kind of, there's no happy ending. I guess you could maybe consider suicide. That's very controversial. But no, I mean, really think about it. Like, what are you going to be living for? Right? If we don't have any sort of higher purpose, right? Spiritual purpose, a real meaningful purpose. That's not just mundane and made up by ourselves. Like, what's the point of like even living if there's no such purpose like this, right? No such higher spiritual existential purpose. What's the point of living? You know, if let's just assume that the sad reality is true, right? That we have no higher purpose or meaning or values, and so we exist for no reason. I mean, a lot of people might disagree with me, but you know, suicide would seem seem so absurd, right? You know, suicide. Right? Of course, a lot of people are gonna definitely disagree with me, but you know, suicide might seem very it wouldn't seem, it might seem a lot more reasonable than a lot of people would like to think, really. But you know, again, there's no clear answer to this question, right? What's your purpose? There's no clear answer. It's up to you to kind of think about and speculate on and contemplate on and blah blah blah, and just really think about it. What is your purpose?